Everyone, IanXIlyana here. I had to bring back the I Hate LA, Love Me Anyway podcast because I recently signed back on to Threads. I took some time off because none of my posts were getting through. They talk about all of these wonderful civil uprisings, but I post about my own military sexual trauma and it barely gets through, barely gets through. So I was frustrated and I just said, you know what, I have YouTube. YouTube has been very kind and just says, you're a disabled person with PTSD from military sexual trauma. If you want to vent about how the United States government used sexual degradation torture against an American citizen on American soil, you go right ahead. Go right ahead and do that. So thank you to YouTube. I left such a scathing review of Threads because, you know, the algorithm is super funny because I'm scrolling through all the posts and finally come across Trees Hurt, this wonderful Toronto, Ontario Canadian person who is speaking about positivity and over consumerism, goes out like I do and just picks up the litter. Why? Because the world is a beautiful place and so many people just want to remind you that it's ugly, and you have to remind them that no, it's a beautiful place. And I was watching this person go about and clean up this forest, and I was extremely touched and moved that Trees Hurt would do this. I believe that's their Instagram and Threads handle. So I reached out and said, I definitely want to interview for my show because that level of environmentalism and community upkeep is exactly who I am as a person and what I wish that this country felt like. I wish this country could see itself like I do. The people are terrible, but you know, that doesn't stop you from picking up some litter. If you litter, then you're just a terrible person. No matter how woke people are, how woke are you if you don't give back to your community? So in that scathing review for Threads, I point blank just unloaded on them for constantly filling my feed with transgender activism because I'm a transgender activist, and then highlighting every single Pedro Pascal post that this person makes about transgender inclusivity. Do I want allies for the transgender community? No, I don't. I really don't. I really don't need a celebrity to tell me that it's okay to be myself. I already know that it's okay to be myself. I have more of an issue with violence against transgender people. Hello, welcome to my channel, and you can enjoy a lovely time out for saying that. Thank you. Bye now. Transgender is a part of the community. It really is. And for some people, it's going through the operation. For other people, it's accepting all facets of yourself, accepting a lifestyle where you don't have to wear pants, underwear, whatever the fuck you want. You just live your life. I mean, I'm pretty much married to the idea that I just wear a Scottish kilt as much as possible, which is why I want my disability benefits so I can move to a country that allows that without any sort of censure. Because I'll just say it, I'm a transgender person who is going to rock a beard. I'm going to keep the genitals I was assigned at birth. But inside myself, I'm going to embody the gender identity that I mostly identify with. That is my personal situation. It just so happens that I guess I'm more masculine version of that. I love what you just said there, because that is the crux of it. You know, I am attacked for being transgender, but what I really am is just a very traditional male, a very traditional Scottish male, which is normal if you live in Scotland. If you live in America, that just, it makes them want to attack you because you're not giving in to the pants propaganda, and I will call it that, pants propaganda. If you know the true freedom of loose-fitting clothes and growing your beard out and just living more of an earthy life, you would see the health benefits. You would see the rest and relaxation of no longer having to butch up for what? To impress who? I have PTSD from military sexual trauma. I don't go out and speak to people. At this moment, I pretty much walk my dog, pick up the poo, and then chuck it. I'll come back, wash my hands, and go about the rest of my day. That is the extent of my life right now. And you know what? That is all that America allows me to be. Because if I try and go around this area, which is supposed to be liberal, Los Angeles is supposed to be a liberal area, but it isn't really. It isn't. So when I hear that Pedro Pascal is just such a glowing recommendation, Devon Sawa, who I had the biggest crush on, biggest crush on. I've loved you since Casper. I've loved you since Idle Hands. I've always been a big fan, but all of these celebrities are coming out for transgender rights. And all I want to say is thank you so much. But where was this discussion before it became trendy? When you started your career, was that the first thing that came out your mouth? When you started Game of Thrones and you knew that you were going to be sucking face with men on that show, was the first thing that come out your mouth, oh my God, transgender people, need to be included in the conversation. They've always been here. Did you say that then? Or are you saying it now because you have a movie coming out? It's like, do you really care about the issue? I like Pedro Pascal. I've always liked him. I think he's a phenomenal actor. I enjoy what he does, but when you do stuff like this, it just makes me question your morals and character as a person. Not your characters. Your characters are lovely, but who are you as a person? Because it's one thing to make flowery speeches about transgender rights. It's another to do something about it. It's another to do something for the community. You had gained so much money from your Game of Thrones residuals, from your Last of Us, from all of them little movies that you've done. Have you given to any transgender organizations, homeless shelters, teenagers that were forced out of their homes because they came out and their parents rejected them, or they were being bullied so badly that they just decided, fuck it, I guess I have to run. I have to run from my home because even though my parents might be supportive, I just don't want to lose my life. So these kids run off to a brand new city like LA or something like that. And they think, oh my God, I'm going to be accepted. And no, straight into prostitution, straight into drugs. They try to get into a homeless shelter, but they're afraid of being abused there. They don't have enough beds there, blah, blah, blah. Did you spend any money on trying to help these people? Did you say, you know what? Fuck it. I can give up like $100. How much is a bed? How much is a cot? How much is a meeting with a social worker who can say, let me help you with your application so you can find your own apartment? How much is that out of your $1 million paycheck to do something like that? You're your own person, Pedro Pascal and Devon Sawa. And I thank you for the lovely messages, but when you make messages about transgender inclusivity, you're speaking to people who are already supportive of it. When they say thank you so much for being yourself and you can always be yourself, I know that I can be myself. And yeah, it is somewhat of an ego boost to know, oh, it gets better from a celebrity. But it's not getting better. Transgender people are constantly under attack. They constantly have to fear for their lives. And their human rights are being eroded away and nobody cares. I care. I'm a transgender activist. I will care. I will care and care and care and care. But these people, they are using my community to shuck and jive for their fucking entertainment business without saying, you know, I could also vote with my dollar. I have millions of dollars. It's like, really? For the price of your Starbucks coffee, racked up over a week or a month of you doing one of your film shoots, if you just skip that for like a month, that could be enough to give a transgender teen a cut so that they could meet with a social worker who can get them food stamps, can get them employment if that's what they want. It could get them lots of things, clothes. It could get them, makeup, because some of them do need to beat their face. So it could help them. If you are doing that, then please speak about that. Pedro Pascal, speak about what you actually do for transgender people and not just this flowery speech of, well, I wish the world was a better place. Make the world a better place for transgender people. That's what I want to hear from celebrities. I don't want to see you retweeting some rainbow flag and think that that stops a transgender person from being murdered. Because that is what is happening to my community. Beautiful transgender people are having their lives ripped away from them because they live in a country where nobody sees them as themselves and they're not mentally, prepared for just the level of hate and oppression that is truly out there when you choose to be yourself, because there's a lot of it. And what we should be doing is say, if America is so unforgiving for anyone who is different, then we need to come together. We need to do more for each other and say, if you're a transgender person, I have to reach out to you and say, what do you need? Do you need money? Well, let me give you some money. You know, do you need housing? Well, let me find you housing. Do you need food? Well, let me feed you. Let me do something for you. Because all these celebrities just want to use us because it pats them on the back and they get more followers. So they get more clicks and they get that added revenue of Instagram saying, you know, you drove a lot of clicks. You know, all these people going, bravo, you're so brave. You're so brave for saying what you're saying. Did you say that when you were doing Casper, when you were a young kid doing Casper? And I know that it didn't exist then, the social media thing, but you had to do press. You had to. Did you say anything then? If you did, let me know. Send me a link to that. Same thing with Pedro Pascal. When you were on Buffy the Vampire Slayer and you were, you know, guy who's there for 10 minutes and then has to, you know, hit the craft table as you walk out, because that was all they were giving you for that series at that time. Did you say anything for LGBTQ people then? Because now that you're so much older, so much wiser, and have tons of money, now you're saying it. Because you have that luxury. You have the luxury to say, you know what, I'll play with gender roles, and you know, I'll wear feminine clothing, and you know, people will say, oh, that's so avant-garde, it's so brave, it's. Are you doing that while people are yelling at you, calling you a faggot? Are you doing that while people are punching and kicking you? No, you're not. You're doing it on a red carpet. And good for you. If you want to feel comfortable, I always recommend wearing a dress. Dresses are more comfortable than wearing suits. And they're more stylish. You could do more with it. You could be more elaborate, more extensive. And let's just face it. If you're on the red carpet, are you a peacock or are you a rooster? Because if you want to be a rooster, you get passed by with all those cameras. But be a peacock and yeah, you'll be noticed. So I get it. I 100% get it. But do you understand it from my perspective that I'm a transgender person struggling in America and I have a celebrity who uses my community inadvertently to give themselves more money and to promote their latest project? It's things like this that make me say, I want to see Fantastic Four, but I don't want to see Fantastic Four if the lead actor is going to behave in this way. Transgender this, transgender that. But what do you do about it? You can't just say transgender and then are you donating to charity? Did you start your own Pedro Pascal's transgender charity? Where's that? Where's that? Transgender Human Rights Act proposed by Pedro Pascal. Where's that? Where's that, dude? Where's that, bro? Because I don't see that. I don't see you talking about that. I see you talking about, you know, we gotta let live, you know, we gotta be inclusive, man. Okay. So really, that's all you offer. That's all you can think to offer because you're an actor. So you just want to act like you care. You don't actually care. Because if you cared, you'd do something. None of you care. None of you care. And it hurts because, you know, when I see something like that, I say, somebody is maybe cares, but then I think, oh, well, they're just speaking into a microphone. I can speak into a microphone too. So this is my response to the constant support from Hollywood on transgender rights. Oh, and I love Marvel. I love Marvel, and I'm gonna have to talk about Anna Paquin returning as Rogue. When she played Rogue the first time, she played young Rogue. Young Rogue, teenager Rogue. Slightly annoying but adorable. Always damsel in distress, Rogue. If she's coming back into that role, I want adult Rogue. Adult Rogue who is strong, tough, but she is fighting with her body. And yes, it's because of her mutant powers and all that, but you know, let's dig a little deeper. She's a woman who's struggling with her body and what her body does and her body's identity, her mental identity, her gender identity, because you know, she touches things and oosh, rush of memories and all that. But you wouldn't give that role to a transgender person? You wouldn't let someone like Laverne Cox serve that role up on a dish for people? Rogue is smart, beautiful, sassy. She's either a black trans woman or a black drag queen. She comes from the South. Don't tell me that girl doesn't have a little color in her. Now, like I said, I don't want to take work out of Anna Paquin's mouth. If she wants to be the role, she wants to be the role, but I'm going to ask her to just do more. Absolutely do more. Reinvent that character. Show the strength and the fragility of someone who is struggling with their body. Rogue is a transgender character. If Marvel doesn't want to call it that, that's a disservice to the writers who came up with that wonderful character, because I think it is important to start showing transgender people throughout many facets of entertainment and many facets of life, because there are transgender people who can be lawyers, there are transgender people who can be doctors, there's transgender people who can, and by the way, thank you to ABC and Disney in general, because they have a transgender person who's a doctor on Grey's Anatomy. So it's a wonderful company, it really is, but there's showing it on a screen and then there's back in reality, back on, I don't have $1 million paycheck, I'm just a transgender person trying to grocery shop. Life is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. Personally, I just want to see someone like Laverne Cox, who is a phenomenal actress, interact with all the rest of the people. Interact with Chris Hemsworth. Interact with Bobby Mackey. Anthony Mackie. Oh my lord. Dude, I should know your name. I should know your name. But where is that? You know, if she doesn't get a major role like that, there's no chance for that. There's no chance for people to see transgender people. I mean, you get to see them like out of the corner of your eye, maybe if you inferred further on something like Hawkeye, You might see that there. I don't know. Maybe I just expect too much from a business that wants to stay in business. And there's no dollar amount for truly embodying that inclusivity message that you keep espousing. The Invisible Woman, by the way, beautiful actress, absolutely stunning actress. And when I think of Sue Storm, I do think of her. But they couldn't have asked any high profile transgender people to do that same role. You couldn't ask Kim Petras to do that role. No, you didn't. And maybe Kim Petras said no, and maybe Marvel said, no, we want that 60s vibe, we want this, we want that. But this was such an opportunity. It's a brand new team kind of forming up here. You can pick anyone. And then Marvel would have to say, okay, well, we roll with it. But they don't do it that way. They don't do it that way. I've been writing and writing and writing for my fan fiction, which I hope would be able to submit a script eventually. And I don't know. I feel like I expect too much from them, and I don't really want to be part of the process. I just want to criticize it. So, as I said, I don't know if I can watch that film. If I can't speak out about celebrities espousing such support without actually supporting anything. Because you're really going out on a limb when you're a celebrity that lives in a mansion and pretty much lives on set for most of what you do, surrounded by people who are of like minds. And you don't have to go into middle of the America and say that same thing. It's like Pedro Pascal is saying that from sets where everyone has to be super supportive and can't be bigoted in any way. You're not saying that in the middle of Oklahoma down at the Home Depot. If you said that there, say that same thing about transgender people at Home Depot in Oklahoma. You're not going to. No. You're a celebrity. Enjoy your celebrity status. Don't call yourself an activist. Not much to say. I just felt super strongly about that. I feel terrible because the VA denied me my disability benefits, and then right after they denied me, they just had some woman call me over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it's just it just triggers my PTSD. I've spent the past couple days mostly just crying. And I know yesterday I tried to put on a brave face, but after that I cried, and I cried. Because it takes energy to be happy, and when you're not eating properly and when you're not sleeping properly because of everything, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I know that there are people who are worse off than me, and I know that the last time I did a live with someone, it was that small undercurrent of you know, whatever problems you have, there are people who are worse off. So I get it. I totally get it. I'm still going to say that it's my pain. It is my story that I'm dealing with right now. You don't have to agree. You don't live this life. You don't live this story. But I'm going to talk about my pain. You come into my channel, you're going to hear about my pain. You want to talk about handicap equivalency, do that on your own channel, because I always support my entire handicap community. And I'm not playing favorites or anything like that. But I do say that if your American government sexually abuses an American citizen under military orders because the government wants you to turn into a transgender person, I'm going to talk about that on my channel, and you will not dissuade me from talking about that. If the VA isn't going to pay me for my disability, then I have every right to every single day bring up that the United States Air Force enlisted me to sexually abuse me. I'm going to bring that up every single time, because freedom of speech, you ignored my human rights, you ignored my American civil liberties as a serviceman on active duty when you sexually abused me and sent me to the hospital. But now, you will never stop me from using my freedom of speech. You will never stop me from using freedom of press. You will never stop me from my freedom of religion. I have the right to live as free as I ever can be. So let that be a lesson to you. If you disagree with me, if you disagree with transgender rights, you disagree with whatever, I don't care. I'm going to tell you the same thing I would tell a person who supports me. Start your own fucking channel. If you feel that strongly that you want to speak about this issue, either you support or you disapprove of transgender people, start your own fucking channel. Because this channel is about my transgender life, my transgender struggles. Are we clear? My name is IanXIlyana. This is I Hate LA, Love Me Anyway. I'm an environmentalist, human rights activist. I continue to do podcasts. I don't have any money, so if you feel like this is something that you would like to support, I do encourage you to join my Patreon or consider making a small donation to my Cash App, which is in the description. Thank you everyone who joined me, good or bad. You at least in some way showed support. So I'm going to take that as thank you for joining me today.